I really kick off with introducing Max, I would just like to honor the fact that his mom, Terry, is in the audience and flew here from Seattle to see her son on stage. So, Terry, heck yeah. Now let me embarrass your son a little bit. So, Max's childhood crush was the Olsen twins. And he said that he's snobby about minimal shoes. Okay, I've never heard of minimal shoes, and I asked him what they were, and he's like, they're the opposite of maximum shoes, but they're really a thing. They're flat, and they have very little something between your feet and the floor, and they don't pinch your toes. Your toes get to and he's snobby about it. So, and also his fun fact is that he can bump start a manual car in reverse. So if anybody needs to get their car started backwards down a hill by a guy in minimal shoes, Max is your man. So please welcome Maximum Rosencrantz to the stage. Those are some hot minimal shoes.
Thank you. What did the bee say to the flower? What time you open up, bud? That joke did a lot better in the dress rehearsal. It also did a lot better at my first and likely only comedy special. My grandfather was retiring after 24 years as the sheriff of a small town in Vermont, and they hired me to headline. It was my moment. I was ready. I was ready to give the audience what they came for. I was about 4 years old. My grandfather was a tough son of a bitch, mostly in a good way. He beat his battle with cancer when I was a kid, but eventually we lost him to memory loss. He passed a few years ago. But he left me with all these ridiculous stories and catchphrases that I'm still trying to decipher. Things like tougher than a boar's ass and damn false teeth and don't take any wooden nickels. So I'm going to do my best tonight to share with you some of the wisdom that he imparted on me. We're going to start with, if you see any $100 bills lying on the ground, pick them up. I used to think this was just a hilarious phrase that he used to get a rise out of us kids, but it's taken on a new meaning for me recently. I discovered that feeling good is a skill. It's a skill that a lot of us don't have practice at. We haven't put in a lot of reps yet. And just like any skill that you don't have practice at, you're not going to be very good. If you don't run very often, you won't be a fast runner. If you don't play chess very often, you won't be very good at chess. And when you try to do something you're not good at, you're likely to fall on your face. So what are the symptoms? That your feeling good muscle hasn't done enough reps, that skill doesn't have practice. Deflecting compliments, criticism, worrying in any kind, any shape, any form. Getting sick, and finding the worst part of a good situation. So what do you do about this? Well, if your feel-good muscle needs practice, the first place I would start is receiving compliments. When somebody says something nice about you, just say thank you. I know, it's really difficult, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't feel good in your system, but I believe in you. You can do the reps. So back to the $100 bills. What was the point of all of that? I think what my grandfather was really telling me was that life gives you many good things, but if you're closed to receiving them, they won't go anywhere. Life puts a lot of $100 bills on the ground in front of you, and if you don't pick them up, they're going to stay there until the next person comes along and does. Switching gears a little bit to the other side of the family, my father's mother, she was born in a small town on the border between Germany and Poland. It switched back and forth between Germany and Poland, but when she was there, unfortunately she wasn't there for very long, otherwise she might never have made it here. It was Germany, and my family's ethnically German. But there was another woman at the independent living facility that she spent her final few years at who insisted, no, that's Poland. That woman is dead to my grandmother. She's also probably just actually dead at this point. That woman knew nothing from borscht. Poor old lady. She never learned the cardinal rule. Don't mess with little old German ladies. Switching back to Vermont and my grandfather, and we'd go and we'd fish on the creek underneath Texas Falls, which still to this day I haven't figured out why a waterfall in Vermont is called Texas, but hey, it's America. I spent days at that creek fishing with nothing but a string tied to a stick and a safety pin. I didn't catch anything. Kat thought that this was actually just a good DIY trick to fish on the cheap, but it doesn't work. But that was the point. I loved that creek. I loved hanging out with my gramps. I loved hanging out with my big bro. And I think I understood life a little bit better back then, because back then I could fish without catching any fish and enjoy myself. And so I think that's a little bit of the point. If you can learn to enjoy yourself while you're fishing without catching any fish, you can learn to enjoy yourself while you're living without catching any fish. That's me. I was really cute back then. I'm still really cute. So I want to leave you with a quote from a guy named Malidoma Somé, who passed at the end of last year. And he said, "Grandparents will soon return to where the grandchildren came from. So therefore, the grandchildren are the bearers of the news that the grandparents need. And they must get that information from the grandchildren before the time is too late and the grandchild forgets. I hope I got my grandfather the information he needed before I forgot, because he sure gave me a lot of good info." My name is Max Rosencrantz. Your name is Ignite Denver 38. You've been wonderful. You can find me here.
Thank you. Yeah, got it. Thank you. That was, by the way, when we were going through no, you're good. Thank you for the minimum shoes flashing. When he was talking about the fishing, I thought that there was actually a worm on the safety pin, and there wasn't. It was just a pin in the water. It just makes the visual even cooler. And probably still more successful than any legit fishing that I've ever done.